I used to work the night shift at a convenience store not too long ago. It was a chain store about 20 minutes from my house by bike, but the place was far from the station. Not in a residential area either. Hardly anyone came by late at night. Something happened during one of those night shifts. This is how it went. Night shift work was basically like being a warehouse worker. All I had to do was focus on restocking. I liked that kind of mentally easy job. Then one night, a suspicious figure started appearing outside the store. I couldn't tell what he looked like or how old he was. Anyway, once midnight hit, this black shadow would often lurk around the store. I figured it had to be some homeless person from who knows where, or someone else planning to steal from inside. So I psyched myself up and worked hard at restocking. Then one day, I was doing my usual work when I noticed something felt off. Normally I was used to having no customers, but today was different. That guy who was usually outside today, he was inside. When I say inside, I don't mean in the store itself. He was back in the warehouse area. Somehow he'd gotten in and was moving around back there. To avoid being noticed, I quietly went through the employee entrance and walked into the dim warehouse, reaching for the light switch. But right then, I realized he was muttering something to himself, searching for something, and he was way too close. My body froze up. His eerie silhouette was hunched over, pitch black, covered in grime, blurred at the edges, giving off an aura that didn't seem human. That guy who made my skin crawl was facing the warehouse floor piled with cardboard boxes, mumbling something. Not here, not here, not here, not here. That dark, hunched figure suddenly went completely still, then slowly turned around to look at me. My face. It's over there. I looked and my heart stopped. He had no face. Or rather, he had no head at all. On his neck was some bright red thing I couldn't identify, and it slid toward me. I immediately hit the lights and forced my rigid body to move, fleeing into the store. After that happened, I was terrified and quit the convenience store job. But recently I've noticed around my house, strange black shadows had started lurking nearby. Did he follow me? That guy with no face, where was his voice even coming from? Minus the hand with red nail polish. This happened when I went to Sendai on a business trip. Here's how it went. That day I'd gone to Sendai for work. After work ended, everyone was drinking in a cheap hotel. The front desk called the room saying some strange woman claiming to be Komitsu was on the phone. So I headed down alone, feeling puzzled, and got into the elevator. Suddenly, I felt some strange movement behind me, but I didn't think much of it at the time and just took the elevator down. After I got out and walked a few steps, the instant the elevator doors closed, I glanced back. I caught sight of a pale arm with strikingly red nail polish. It retracted into the gap between the elevator doors. Cold sweat broke out on my back. Thinking that wasn't a human hand, I walked toward the front desk. I asked the clerk if someone had called earlier. The clerk looked confused. Then suddenly, as if remembering something, she said yes. There had been a call, but strangely she couldn't remember the content at all. The front desk worker apologized profusely. I reassured her and decided to head back to my room. When I got back to the room acting casual, everyone was sleeping quietly. Since I wasn't sleepy yet, I walked toward the fridge to grab a beer when there was a knock at the door. I left the chain on and opened it, looking up and down the hallway. No one there, so I went back and sat in the chair. I was facing the window. From outside the window I thought I saw something huge fall past. I wondered if I was drunk. To check, I opened the window and looked down. Nothing there. Then I heard the knocking again. This time I didn't open the door, I looked through the peephole instead. Again, no one. When I thought that was strange, I instinctively looked down at my feet. Suddenly something came through from under the door. It was the fingers with red nail polish I'd seen in the elevator. sliding across the floor through the gap between the door and the ground, wriggling their way into the room. The clicking sound made me back away. Suddenly I fell to the floor and passed out. The next morning, the hotel was filled with a heavy atmosphere. There had been a suicide. Someone had jumped from the building. The police hadn't arrived yet, but a crowd had already gathered. You could hear screaming and wailing. From a bit of a distance, I could see a woman lying on the ground. Her shape was too horrific to look at directly. My eyes instinctively fell on her fingernails, red nail polish. Just as I thought. Nothing that happened yesterday was a coincidence. But what shocked everyone most afterward was that the woman's right hand was nowhere to be found. The monitor. This happened back when I was working part-time at a convenience store. Late at night, the place was always dead. My senior co-worker and I would hang out in the back prep room, killing time with manga and magazines. One night, same as always, we were in the prep room snacking and chatting. As far as work went, we just glanced at the security monitor now and then. The screen was split into 4 sections to showing the register, one covering the food section and one on the magazine area. I was watching the monitor when I noticed something. A woman was standing by the magazine rack, long hair down to her waist. That's weird. The door chime didn't ring. My senior thought it was strange too, but sometimes that happened, so we didn't think much of it and kept talking. But no matter how much time passed, the woman didn't move. I figured she was reading, but she wasn't holding anything, just staring at the shelves, unblinking. There was something off about her. "Hey," my senior said. "You think she's planning to steal something?" I'd been thinking the same thing, so I nodded. We decided to pincer her. We left the prep room. My senior headed for the register, while I went toward the shelves from the prep room entrance. When I got to the magazine rack, we both tilted our heads in confusion. No one was there. Weird. It should have been a perfect pincer move. Just then, we heard a toilet flush from the bathroom area. Huh, did she go to the bathroom? What a strange person. We headed back to the prep room, thinking nothing of it. But when we looked at the monitor again, for the first time, both of us felt our skin crawl. The woman was still there, standing in exactly the same spot as before, staring at the shelves. That's way too fast. Obviously, she'd gotten from the bathroom to the magazine rack faster than we'd gotten back to the prep room. But why would she be facing the shelves in the exact same position? Was the monitor malfunctioning? We looked at each other and nodded. Once more, we left the prep room and approached the shelves in a pincer formation. This time, the woman was gone again. Cold sweat ran down both our backs, but we walked back to the prep room without saying a word. First, we checked the monitor feed. She's gone, my senior muttered to himself. Just like he said, the woman was no longer on the screen. Relieved, I leaned in closer to get a better look. That's when my senior suddenly lowered his voice. "Stop. Don't move." "What?" I froze reflexively. We both stared at the screen. My senior kept his voice low. "Listen carefully. Do not turn around right now." "Why?" I thought. But then I understood when I looked at the screen. In the reflection on the monitor, I could see my own face and my senior's face, and right between us a woman's face, peering over our shoulders. I held back a scream. My whole body locked up. After enduring several agonizing minutes, the woman muttered something under her breath and quickly left. About a minute later, my senior finally said, "Okay." I let out a breath. I turned around shakily. No one there. Clutching my pounding chest, I stepped away from the screen. "There's something really wrong with this place," my senior said. "Yeah," I replied, and then I froze again. My senior followed my gaze back to the screen. On the monitor, the woman had reappeared facing the camera, mouth stretched wide in a grin. The instant we saw that, both of us bolted out the back door without a word. We ran. The man in the manhole. I used to work night shifts for a security company. Most of the time, I was stationed at road construction sites, noisy traffic control work on busy streets. One day, I got assigned to a narrow side street for a change. The little road was closed to cars because of temporary water main work. Hardly any vehicles passed through at night. I liked it. Better than standing on some loud highway. I could just zone out on the quiet city street and let my mind wander. Anyway, the job was easy that day. All I had to do was watch the construction site and make sure no cars got through. Those annoying senior guys weren't around either. I was the only one on minus site. I just had to wait for the morning shift to show up so I could hand things off and head home. I started by checking where the nearest restroom and vending machines were. Then, clutching my glowing weed baton, I positioned myself at a narrow intersection where I could see in all directions, no matter which way a car came from. I'd spot it. Might as well stay put right here, I figured. During the first hour, maybe 2 cars passed through, but neither turned into the street. After that, I watched a few drunks, salarymen, and people heading home after missing the last train shuffle by. Then nothing. The road showed no sign of pedestrians or vehicles. One by one, the lights in the surrounding houses went dark as time crept forward. Not even a stray dog around. I could slack off all I wanted. Just as I muttered this to myself, I heard a sound. I turned toward the construction site. A fence surrounded a manhole cover, and near it, I sensed something off. When I looked closer, I saw a figure by the open manhole, down in the sewer. I checked my watch immediately. 2:30 in the morning. Too strange. At this hour, there shouldn't be any workers here. I figured it had to be either a drunk or some young punk wandering around at night, messing with things. As I slowly approached, I noticed something wrong. The person was grinning wide, staring motionless into the hole. Even though he was smiling, it felt sinister because he just kept staring down into the sewer, completely still. My red glow stick pulsed rhythmically across the man's face, but he didn't seem to care that I was getting closer. He just kept staring straight down at the manhole. For this to happen in the middle of the night, I started to feel afraid. What the hell is with this guy? That's when I noticed the person slowly turning his head toward me. His eyes were black holes. His face was twisted. I couldn't tell if he was smiling or not, but I clearly felt the malicious hatred radiating from him. I made up my mind staying here wasn't a smart idea. I wanted to run. Just then, a car turned in from the main street. Its headlights lit up everything around us. After the car passed, I immediately looked back toward where the strange man had been. He was gone. I stood at the intersection, staring at that manhole cover until dawn broke. But the man never appeared again. Before heading home, I went down into the sewer with the morning shift to check. But there was nothing down there. Nothing at all. Ever since that incident, whenever I see a manhole cover, I start to feel sick. Mr. Oh, I don't know who Mr. Oh he is, but back in my hometown, he's pretty famous among people who work at convenience stores. A senior employee warned me, if a customer calling himself Mr. Oh comes in, don't look at him. As a part-May's timer at the convenience store, I forgot about this within a few days. About 3 months later, just as I was getting used to the work, a new part-minus timer joined our store. I handed off some of my duties to the newbie, so I felt a lot lighter. That day, the newbie and I were working the night shift together. I was in the back office, smoking and eating an expired bento that was about to be thrown out. I was watching the security monitor. 3 kids who looked like middle schoolers were standing in front of the magazine section, reading. Meanwhile, the newbie was carefully watching them from the register, making sure they didn't steal anything. I operated the switch button, observing the store. Then I saw something odd, even though no one was at the register. The newbie suddenly started bowing and scraping in front of it. What's he doing? I wondered. Then the newbie pressed the buzzer to call the back office. Instantly I thought of those kids shoplifting. I came out from the back and saw a middle-aged man standing at the register. I figured he must have come in right after the newbie hit the buzzer. Welcome, I called out loudly. The man suddenly said, Hello, I'm Mr. Oe. What's he talking about? While I was trying to process this, the newbie looked at me and waved me over. When I got close, the newbie whispered, Mr. Oe showed up. The one the manager told us about. Don't make eye contact. That's when I remembered. Fortunately, before the newbie called me over, Mr. Oe had his back to me the whole time, so I hadn't seen his face. Mr. Oe said, Mr. Give me a pack of Levi smiled, and this gum and fried chicken, while the newbie rang him up. I stuffed his items into a plastic bag. That's when Mr. Oe said in a joking tone, Also, give me a life. I'm very sorry. We don't carry that product in our store. How terrifying, I thought. I kept my head down and played along with his joke. Then he said, Oh, you do have one. One of those 3 people over there give me their life. The 3 young people in the magazine section were chatting, looking at magazines, completely oblivious they hadn't heard a thing. My junior and I didn't know what to do. We were really at a loss. We looked at each other and said, we're very sorry, but they're not merchandise. The old man smiled and said, Then I'll take all of them, and threw some money and 3 strange wire-craft objects onto the counter. The next day, I told the store manager and an older woman who'd been with the company longer than me about what happened. The manager said, What's going on? Hey, did Mr. Oe leave something behind? So I brought out the wire he'd left yesterday. The manager said, Next time Mr. Oe comes in, give the wire back to him. Since the manager said to return it when the old man came back, I put it somewhere easy to see. The night after that, during the night shift, my junior came running out of the back office crying. I asked him what was wrong. He told me the wire was moving on its own back there. How could there be such an idiotic thing? So my junior and I went to look together. We saw those 3 pieces of wire crawling across the desk like earthworms. That situation continued for several days, and they only moved at night. The other seniors on night shift thought it was disgusting too. A few days later, one of the wires seemed to gradually weaken. That very day, there was an accident at a nearby intersection. A motorcycle and a car collided, and a young man lost his life in the crash. It made the news at the time. The driver said the out-control motorcycle suddenly braked hard and then came straight at them, crashing into us. The next night, when a senior and the store manager were on night shift, Mr. Oe came in. He was carrying a black plastic bag that seemed to contain a ball. The manager, trembling, returned those 3 pieces of wire to Mr. Oe, according to the senior who was there at the time. The manager told him to go to the back and bring out the wire. When the senior went to the back office, he saw the security monitor screen. He saw a young man with a body but no head, on the ground by the roadside, as if searching for something, crawling around, groping everywhere, and the store's cameras showed that aside from the manager, there was no one else there at all. One of my friends who works at another convenience store, and another friend who works part-time at a video rental shop, they both know the legend of Mr. Oe too. I wonder if any of you in other places have heard stories like this. The warehouse. This is something that happened to me at my very first part-time job. The story goes like this. I still remember that summer vacation of my freshman year of college. I was thinking it was time to stop relying on my parents. I had this notion of wanting to be independent, so I was looking for work opportunities. Through my older cousin's introduction, I started working at the company where he worked, mainly doing logistics. The warehouse location I was assigned to was in a remote field, because it was near the airport. There were basically no buildings. Instead, there was just open space and other companies' logistics warehouses. After I started, my cousin jokingly warned me, "Work hard. Don't make me lose face." But then my cousin also reminded me very seriously, if the supervisor asks you to work night shift, you must refuse. I didn't understand why, but because my cousin said it was to protect me, and because of how serious his attitude was. Even on holidays, I didn't sign up for night shift work, and so I lived my life studying hard while working part-time. In the blink of an eye, it was January. Valentine's Day was approaching, and I really wanted to buy a nice gift for my girlfriend. But with my current salary, it was really tight. So I thought about whether I should work night shift, because if I work night shift, I could earn 2.5 times more than now, and I heard night shift was easy, so I quietly made up my mind. The next day, I asked the supervisor if he could let me work night shift. At first, the supervisor was troubled, because after all, I had no night shift experience, and night shift involved working alone. But seeing that I was in a difficult situation, and considering that recently people on night shift rotation all wanted to switch to day shift, he made an exception and agreed. On the first night of night shift, I arrived at the company. The supervisor had specifically stayed at the company that day to wait for me to come to work. He was really a good person. The supervisor told me that night shift work was very easy, but there were certain principles that had to be strictly followed, because at night, our warehouse normally had no vehicles coming in or out, so basically there was nothing to do. Therefore, I just needed to scan and file all the newly arrived goods in the middle of the warehouse before midnight. But it had to be finished before midnight. At the latest, by 12:30, I had to turn off the warehouse lights, leaving only that one light in the very center. Then I just had to stay in the office, lock the door, and wait until morning. Then, once I was in the office, I could do whatever I wanted, even sleep if I felt like it. But I had to remember to get back to the office before 12:30, lock the door, keep the lights on, and no matter what sounds came from outside, I was not to leave the office, not even to use the bathroom if I could help it. If I really had to move around, I should call the security guard at the main gate and ask him to send someone to accompany me. Never go alone. So every day, I'd turn off the lights at midnight, then hide in the office watching YouTube videos until I fell asleep in the morning. It was so easy that I felt guilty taking the money. Honestly, I didn't understand why they even needed a night shift worker under these conditions. Then, during the second week, on that particular day, I did the same as always, turned off the lights after midnight. I sat in the office, listening to music and looking at my phone, when suddenly I had the vague sense that something was moving in the warehouse. The office window looked directly into the warehouse interior, so I glanced over. Pitch black. Nothing there. I went back to what I was doing. Then came a knocking sound at the window. I looked up and jumped. A man was standing outside the window. It turned out to be one of my day-shift co-workers. He gestured for me to open the door for him. But then I remembered what the supervisor had told me, so I shook my head. My co-worker looked at me with a strange expression. He backed away to the center of the warehouse and stood under the light. I didn't know what he was trying to do. Then suddenly, he stared at me with a look of pure hatred, and his mouth curled up into a smile. Then he charged straight toward the office glass, as if he meant to ram right through the window. My brain registered danger, the glass would shatter. Spray everywhere. Instinctively, I closed my eyes and raised my hands to shield myself. A few seconds passed. Everything was quiet. It was as if nothing had happened at all. I lowered my arms and opened my eyes. The window was perfectly intact. There was no one there. I didn't know what to make of it. Nervously, I called the security guard and explained what had just happened. He said he'd send a colleague over to check. 5 minutes later, I saw someone walk in through the warehouse door. Must be the security guard. He walked slowly toward the office. Then suddenly, he stopped about 100 meters away from the office and just stood there, motionless. I stared hard at that figure. Then suddenly, it rushed toward the office at high speed. I jumped in fright. I saw it very clearly. It was a completely black shadow. It showed no sign of stopping. It slammed hard into the window. The instant the shadow hit, the window made a sharp hissing sound, and then it vanished like black smoke. I was shaking so badly my legs could barely hold me. I had no idea what I'd just seen. No idea what was happening. I was terrified, but I didn't know what to do. The only person I could call for help was security. So I dialed the security office again. Someone picked up, and before I could say anything, he said, "Who are you calling?" Then the door handle started turning violently. I retreated to a corner of the office and didn't dare move. I don't know how much time passed. My phone rang. It was the security guard calling, saying his colleague had gone over but didn't see me, and asking if